What is the most a dollar has ever gotten to you? Did you know Dollar Tree carries condoms? To answer your question, a son bought an interesting looking silk blouse at a pay-by-weight Goodwill outlet. $99 per pound, so was less than a dollar, technically, since it weighed mere ounces. Turned out to be rare vintage Versace. Sold it for around $700. A wife. I signed up for a river tour in a foreign country. It cost me an extra $1 to ride in the first boat leaving. Didn't want other boats in the way of my photos. Met someone on that boat who later introduced me to her cousin. Been married 8 years. I was working retail, and one of the old ladies who used to come in and look at the TVS in my department while they waited for it to be time for the bus back to their independent living facility came over all faint. She asked if I had anything sweet she could have. I got a Coke from the drinks machine in the break room and she drank it slowly, holding onto my arm. My manager had called her an ambulance and they loaded her up and took her away. Diabetic. The EMT said the Coke was just the thing for her and slapped me on the back. I still remember her little wave as she left. She lived. I didn't save her life or anything, but that dollar made the difference between her getting into the ambulance conscious and with dignity versus unconscious and sick. She said later, when I visited her at the hospital, that she might have had to move from independent to assisted living without it. So that was a good $1. Best soda I never drank. Story time. Back in junior high, I liked a girl and flirted with her quite a bit. One time, during a band trip, we stopped at a gas station and she bought me a pack of gum. I tried to pay her back $1 but she refused. So, I slipped the $1 in her pocket. She then slipped the dollar in my backpack and so began the back and forth with the $1 bill. We found silly ways to give it back and forth. I mailed it to her house. She stuffed it in a gum wrapper and offered me a piece. I then decided that I would ask her out on this $1. I wrote, "Will you go out with me?" on it and put it in a note and gave it to her. She said yes, of course. It would be a terrible story otherwise, I suppose. About 4 years later, I still had the same dollar kept away. On our anniversary, I wrote, "Will you marry me?" on the bottom of the dollar. We have been married for 15 years and have 3 awesome kids. We still have that dollar stored away. A friendship. To clarify, I live in Europe and we actually don't have dollars here. When I came back from New York I had some dollars left and had them in my wallet still for a long time, even when I forget about them from time to time. Once I was talking to a girl I met and started talking about America. She had never been there and I remembered that I had $1 in my wallet. I gave it to her and she was really happy. Still talking to her to this day, only a bit less than we used to, but safe to say I can call her a friend of mine. When I was in high school I lived near a grocery store that sold packs of 10 cookies for $1. On the few occasions I had $1 to spare, my parents were very reluctant to give me money, unless it was for school. My favorite thing to do was go there after school/sports practice, buy a pack, and eat them on the swings at the nearby playground. A couple years ago, I was back home for the holidays and decided to recreate the tradition for old time's sake, to remember a simpler time in my life. At this point, I was late in college with a steady job. Thus, I could easily afford to spend $1. I went to the same store, bought the same type I always did, located the same swing in the same park I always sat on, and prepared for a nostalgia overload. And let me tell you, the cookies were terrible. If you have the means, treat yourself better than 10-cent cookies. A full evening's entertainment. I'd bet my friend $1 he wouldn't break into our university's football stadium. He did. But he did so right in front of a security guard, who then proceeded to chase him around, flashlight waving the whole time, in full view of the rest of us outside a fence. This chase went on for probably 5 minutes, through the stands, and across the field. My buddy came flying out a different fence, but ripped his pants open in the process, sharp top to the chain link. So he was then running down the street away from a frustrated security guard while giving said guard the full moon, if unintentionally. Anyways, that led to getting beers while watching cop cars drive around the neighborhood slowly. I can only assume looking for a guy with no ass to his pants. Totally worth $1. I bought a McDonald's burger for this homeless guy near my old job. The guy was grateful, so he taught me how to make origami cranes and we became friends. Fast forward follow up, he got back on his feet and now has a nice apartment and a really annoying, yappy dog. Teaches craft classes at a local community center. He teaches crafts, that is. His dog doesn't teach, that'd be silly. I used to work at a motel doing the night audit. There was a Papa John's across the street, and in a I scratch your back you scratch mine agreement they would deliver me a 10-inch pizza for $1 as often as I liked. I would tip $1 to the driver and suggest Papa John's to any patrons looking for a bite to eat. A rather bossy loud woman came into our shop to talk to my brother. My 6-year nephew told her she needed to leave so he could finish his homework. She laughed and left. I gave my nephew $1 for getting her to leave. I didn't tell him why he got the $1. Black Friday, the local animal shelter has a special any black dog or cat for a $1. Nephew buys a dog with his $1. So $1. Got rid of an annoyance. Saved a dog's life. Gave my nephew a great pet. Annoyed the shit out of my brother because he really didn't want another dog at the house. Okay. To preface this, we grew up really poor and every now and then we would go to this cheap store where everything is expired and my mom would let me and my siblings, there's 4 of us, have $1 to spend and so we would try to make it count, and I think the most I ever got was a sucker, a Tootsie Roll, an apple juice box, and 8 gumballs. Bought a raffle ticket for $1 and ended up winning an advent calendar of Jim Beam whiskers valued at $45. It was only 12 days worth, and I drank it all on the first day, got really drunk, and banged a chick who got pregnant, and now I'm in crippling debt because she had a baby and left me and filed for child support. Best $1 ever. I have a friend who put like $1.50 into XGO skin jackpot back when XGO gambling was a thing. He probably had 1% chance of winning, but he won the whole thing. Like $100 to $200 of skins. So what did he do next? He put all of his winnings into a coin flip. 50 over 50 chance of either losing everything or coming out with double. He won. Seems like any rational person would stop there, but he did it again. He bet all $200 plus in another coin flip and won again. If he had lost either of those coin flips he would have been back where he started before entering the jackpot. At that point he finally decided to chill out a bit now that he had $400 worth of skins. He spent the next few days doing coin flips for hundreds of dollars, not all of what he had, but parts of it, and eventually ended up with $1,000 plus worth of skins. I knew where he was doing coin flips and would sometimes watch the guy put like $400 on the line. He was betting during class lol. He got greedy, though. He did bigger bets and didn't slow down. About a day after his inventory had reached $1,000 in value he told me he had nothing left. He lost it all the same way he won it. All of this happened over the course of 2 to 4 days. What a wild ride that was, LMAO. My great grandma used to give all of her great grandchildren $1 every time she saw us. It was a sweet gesture, and all of us great grandchildren would love seeing her and enjoying the free money. She's recently been moved to a nursing home due to the risk of falling because her body is extremely weak. She's 95. I moved in with my boyfriend in August and went through my things while I packed. I found, concealed in a child's Bible, $1 wrapped in a note which read, "Dear baby, smile away, I can't wait until you're born. Here's your first $1, make sure mommy keeps it. I love you very much." A few weeks later, my mom, sisters and I went to visit her in the home, as my mom is her primary caretaker. I pulled the $1 from my pocket and read the note aloud. My great grandma's eyes lit up and she beamed. "Oh wow, look at that," she said. "I'm glad mommy didn't spend it all." It was a pretty priceless moment. I once used a single $1 to buy about 100 bottles of soda and $25 in quarters over the course of several weeks. There was a vending machine at my old school that dispensed sodas. They had it for 3 years. There was a flaw in the system. Basically, you could put $1 in and quickly yank it without ripping it. If you timed it right, the system registered the $1. For every 2 times you did this, you got 1 soda and 1 quarter for free. I did this 100 times in a row without getting caught by staff or students or fucking it up. I could have told the popular kids, or at least sold them vending machine soda at a reduced price for a profit, but fuck those guys. They bullied me very frequently. I was sad to see the vending machine was gone. When I came back for senior year, they claimed they got rid of it because it promoted unhealthy diets, but they still let us bring in outside soft drinks to class. When I was very young, around 6, I think, I was sitting on a curb trying and failing to play my new toy guitar when an old man put a dollar bill at my feet. I was absolutely flabbergasted and tried to give it back to him, but he explained he was tipping me. I was then introduced to the wonderful and lucrative world of busking, from which I have received lots of enjoyment and cash in recent years. $92. Worked a coat check at an auction and we weren't supposed to have a tip jar. Well, someone placed an empty glass on the counter and eventually someone else thought it was a tip jar and started tipping. I said nothing. It got so full that I had to empty it, and then people no longer tipped because it was just an empty cup. So I put a dollar back in, which made people assume it was a tip jar again, and then the tips came flowing again. Second wave of tips made $92. So putting a dollar back in made me $92. I regret absolutely nothing. I don't know if this counts, but I went to a local casino a few years ago, and I was down to my last $2. I was halfway out the door defeated, but I walked by a row of cheap slots. I found a 20-line game at 1 penny per line, so I put the last of my money in the machine, and I had a decision to either bet 20 cents, 40 cents, 60 cents, 80 cents, $1 or $2. I only had enough money in there for one spin at maximum bet, but I kinda wanted to make what little money I had last. I decided at 40 cents a spin. To win the jackpot on this machine, you needed to get the top symbol, which was a race car I think, across an entire line for it to hit. The reels are spinning. It felt like slow motion. The 5 race cars landed across the center line. Some old guy sitting next to me who had been playing there starts freaking out. You just hit the jackpot. I got really excited, but then the money stopped counting after $80. Turns out you needed to be playing maximum bet, $2 a spin, in order to trigger the jackpot. Instead I won $80 off a 40-cent wager. 100 Swedish fish. My local public pool sold them by the penny. When I was a kid, my mom would send us in with enough money for admission, and if we were lucky enough that she gave a large bill to break for change, we'd go to the concession stand. Treats at home were rather scarce, so I cherished any candy I could get my hands on at the pool. It's one of my sweetest memories, in a literal and figurative sense. I bought for 50 cents at Goodwill, on separate occasions, a copy of Ticket to Ride Europe that was brand new and retails for $50. An old warboard game expansions brand new that I sold for $150. A like new Gamma Cube copy of the Mega Man Legacy Collection that I sold for $65. Did this thing with Scouts where we were given a quid to buy something with and then had to try and swap it for something better. Ended up with one of those VR headsets you put your phone in, a pair of glasses with a fake nose attached, more perfume sticks than any rational group of 16-year-olds could ever need, and a poster for a musical happening in the town that week. Okay, the short version. We are drunk at a bar and my friend bets me $1 that I can't throw a dart and hit said dollar taped to the board. Above his head a la William Tell. Of course, I miss, and stuck that dart to the hilt into his forehead. We are still drunk, and after laughing and trying unsuccessfully to remove said dart, off to the hospital. Drunk friend has a cute pa remove the dart in the air. He proposes to said pa then and there. They wind up dating. They get married. Now, here's where it pays off for me. Destination wedding in Florida Keys. I'm broke. Like, broke. Can't go. Sorry. Negative he says. You shall be the best man. After all, my shitty dart throwing skills is why they met. So, they pay for me to spend a whole week hanging out in the Keys with the rest of the wedding party. And man, what a party for the wedding. Wedding was had. They are still married 20 years later. And yes, he still has the dart framed in their den. $1 is about 50 pesos in the Philippines, enough to buy a pack, 24 PCS, of ice popsicles several decades ago. During summer breaks, I'd buy a pack and sell per piece to our neighborhood kids. I'd restock from my initial capital plus earnings until the new school year starts, and I'd earn about 500 pesos. Literally my entire life for the last 3 years. I took a break at work, bought an Arizona tea can, and had a breakdown. I was working a shit job, living in a shit apartment with a racist roommate, and I was in a city I didn't know. That breakdown led me to quit, move, find a better job, a better roommate, and a better city. Now I'm making 4x what I had been 3 years ago and just had an interview for a massive promotion. Saved me from getting mugged and gave me a great story. I live in Los Angeles, and at the time I was a teenager taking the subway to work. I see a guy dressed as Jack Sparrow, one of those guys who walk around Hollywood and Highland for photo ops, going through his pockets looking for money to buy a ticket, but he just keeps coming up with gold coins. He, in character, asked if I could help him out, because he forgot his wallet at home, and was $1 short. I'm like, yeah, this is funny enough, he earned the dollar. Give it to him. That evening I'm riding home, and as I'm leaving the station, some guys start coming at me and are clearly looking for a fight. Out of fucking nowhere comes Jack Sparrow brandishing his fake sword, screaming at them to back off. Okay, so now it's 2 on 2, but we are still in danger. Jack's got a fake sword, I'm unarmed, they have real knives. Well, apparently some of his friends were riding with him, and now they catch up. Now it's 2 muggers on one side, and on the other the most cartoony shit I've been involved in. Jack Sparrow, Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees are standing between the muggers and me, talking shit, except Jason, who's just standing there menacingly looming over them. The muggers decided 4 on 2 wasn't a good bet and backed off. I told my mom, when I graduated college I was gonna buy myself a GoPro to take with me on a music tour that following summer. She told me to use her credit card rewards and see what I can find for the points she had accumulated. Turns out she was 10 points short of earning the exact camera I wanted. I called customer service to ask if I could just pay the difference, and they told me I only had to pay $1 for the camera. Few days later I received a brand new GoPro 5 just in time for my music tour.